This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in downtown Denver. We are here at the Colorado Lending Source. For over 20 years, this nonprofit has been a vital resource for small business lending. I am here with Mike O'Donnell, who is the Executive Director. Mike, thank you for joining us so much today.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming out today.
Wonderful. Let me ask you this. Obviously, the company has evolved into quite a massive organization that helps small business out there, but let's go back to the beginning. How did the company originate?
We're a very unusual company. We're actually a private non-profit organization. We were created back in 1990 when a bunch of bankers, economic development organizations, even some small business owners perceived a need in Colorado for another organization like us. So they got together and they created our organization, and we got founded in 1990.
Interesting. Let me ask you this. Obviously, for companies out there who are starting business or possibly expanding in business, why are they turning to a third-party company like yourself, possibly more today than ever before?
There's probably a few reasons. We actually play three different roles in the small business lending industry. We're what's called a certified development company, which is what we originally were created to do. And a certified development company is an organization that works in the SBA, the Small Business Administration world, doing SBA 504 loans. And a 504 loan is a public sector, private sector partnership where a bank will join with a certified development company like ourselves to provide access to a small business who wants to, when they're ready, own the real property that they use in the business. So basically own their own building. And the 504 program can help finance those sorts of transactions. And not that every small business should ever think about owning their own building, but there are certainly, for many reasons, a business might want to control those costs by being its own landlord. And the 504 program is a really good way for them to do that.
Wonderful. A company out there that is well funded, obviously funding is what fuels the company, sustains that company, and obviously creates jobs and is great for the economy. Is that what they're helping folks with?
Correct, and really the mission of Colorado Lending Source is to foster the economic growth of diverse small businesses here in our community, which is really the state of Colorado. The 504 program was created by Congress back in the 80s, actually, purely as an economic development program. It's intended to encourage job creation, and that's how the program is measured, and that indeed is how we are measured. So we allow a small business to get into financing their real estate or their owner-occupied commercial real estate with less money down than the conventional loan, with the idea that they can then conserve that cash a little bit to keep that in the business to allow them to add jobs and grow the businesses. And we've seen that over our 23-year history now. The businesses that we've helped have created an awful lot of jobs in the state of Colorado, and we've worked now with about 2,300 businesses in that 23 years, or probably 100 a year on average, and those businesses have created well over 20,000 jobs in the state of Colorado.
Gee, that's fantastic. One of the things out there, obviously, even before a company even starts, we'll say, do you provide training and education for them as they're deciding if they want to go down that path?
We present ourselves as an educational organization, and the benefit of us being a nonprofit is that we don't have a financial stake or a vested interest. We're not supporting our shareholders. We're not promoting one program over another. Sure. There are pluses and minuses of many of the programs out there available to small businesses. So the role we often play is, this is what's good and bad about this one, this is what's good and bad about the other one. You as the business owner need to work with your business advisors and consultants, and many times that might be a CPA or an accountant or an attorney. And you need to decide what's going to work best for your particular business. So although we don't provide in our industry, it's called technical assistance, which is sitting down and helping a business, we do partner with a lot of people who do that. People like the Small Business Development Center Network, which is great in Colorado, the SCORE Group. There are other resources. And we have started, though, just speaking of education, expanding some of what we offer in the sense of we want to encourage more people to think entrepreneurial in Colorado. So we recently partnered with the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City to present a class called the Ice House Program. And the Ice House Program is really intended to not so much encourage someone to start a small business, but to think about what might be involved if you want to be more entrepreneurial, and whether that's starting a business, whether that's running a nonprofit, whether that's being an artist, whether that's just being good within the business that you're already an employee in. An entrepreneurial way of thinking will really potentially revolutionize the way business gets done in the United States. And so we're very excited about the entrepreneurial thing, which isn't really tied to our lending programs, but does segue really closely in with the educational aspect that we are doing.
Like you said, you're an educational organization. Obviously, it takes a special breed for somebody to jump into entrepreneurship, and what better way to really think about it on the front end rather than later on find out that it might not be what you're into. One of the things out there, obviously, is the resources you have here. Like you say, you're really a friend to the small business because of the fact that you really don't have a vested interest either way, but you're really looking what's best for them.
Correct. And again, we're not CPAs, we're not attorneys, we don't provide that advice. So there's certainly reasons why a business might want to take on a certain sort of financing based on estate planning, exit strategies, things that they're looking for. But our role is really to, again, help them, educate them, and point them in different directions as we need to. We work with a lot of the resource partners in the state, from the state government itself all the way through the communities, the counties, and all of the resources we have. We've got some great resources in this state, and we are still a very small business friendly state, and it's a great place for business to start and grow and be very, very successful.
I would imagine when a person decides, first of all, what they need the money for, then obviously they jump into applications, documents. I imagine rather overwhelming for a lot of businesses. Do you make those documents pretty easily accessible?
We very much so. The Small Business Administration, the federal government, has a reputation of being very difficult and bureaucratic and hard to work with. Really, on an SBA 504 loan, we really only have 3 uniquely SBA type forms. All of the other forms that we require or documents we require are the sort of documents that any bank will collect. So our role is really, twofold. Because the 504 program specifically is a public sector, private sector partnership, it needs to be easy for the private sector lender to want to do it, otherwise they won't want to do it and it'll be too much brain damage for them. And it needs to be easy for the borrower to access as well too, otherwise again, why would you go through the hassle? I mean, the history of SBA, or the reputation it has, is it takes 6 months and it's such a painful process, and then they come and move into your business with you and tell you what to do. And that may have been the case in the 80s, but it's definitely not the case today. Our role is really to make the process as simple and as painless as we possibly can for both our bank partner or our credit union partner who's in the senior position on a 504 project, or our small business borrower who's really the one who benefits from that program.
So you truly are the bridge in between those two, making sure both of them are happy on each end and going through the process easily. Let's talk about some of those reasons they may need money out there. Let's start with the beginning, a startup. Is this something you also provide, obviously?
Yes, it is. The 504 program, owning a building is probably not something that every business wants to do as they start, but about 10% of our projects do involve startups. And if obviously you want to run a gas station, it's not the sort of thing you can rent, or if you want to have a hotel or a motel, car washes. There are lots of businesses where there's not really a market for people renting those out. People will more than likely want to own that real estate. We also work, and I haven't mentioned before, but we help community banks do something called the SBA 7A loan, or the Guaranteed Loan Program. And that's a program that's very accessible to banks, small banks. But again, if they don't have the internal SBA expertise, they sometimes get scared of using that program or confused by the program. So we, as you say, are the bridge between them and the SBA. And we started our SBA 7A division here within the organization as we got into this recession in 2008 and 9. And we found that all of the usual SBA lenders basically stopped making loans to businesses in Colorado. So we felt a need to really work with the community lenders, the smaller banks, to try and get them to make more of these loans. And roughly about 1/3 of all of those loans we assist the community banks do are to startups. And then we also, through the recession, went out and ourselves borrowed some money from federal agencies to make what we call our Colorado Main Street loans. Yes. And those are loans that tend to be smaller loans. In a rural community, it's under $35,000. In across the state, it can be in that gap between $50,000 and $150,000 or $200,000 range. And looking back at all of the funds that we've lent there, about 50% of those loans have been made to startup businesses. And that's exciting to us in the sense that a startup, and if I go back to the Kauffman Foundation, they tell me that based on their research, if I'm going to start a business in the United States, typically, if I'm not going to have employees, I will need about $15,000 to start my business. If I'm going to start my business and I am going to have employees, I will need about $50,000. And so the amount of money needed to start a sort of a business that's really starting to have an impact on the community, ones with employees, is obviously a little higher than the self-employed type individuals. But as businesses grow, there's definitely a need, and we feel that the Main Street program will help some of those if they can't get the financing through banks or the SBA program themselves.
Wonderful. So like you say, the startups is something that you do as part of a, like you say, 10% piece of the pie there. Obviously, a lot of them come to you already. They want to expand, maybe some buildings, some renovating, even getting some equipment or machinery. That is something you provide as well.
Yes, the 504 program is really good for anything called a fixed asset. So anything that you can touch that basically stays in the business. So it can be large medical machines like x-rays or radar and laser things. Many times it's buildings, but that could be a commercial condo. We've helped finance someone in eastern Colorado buy a building there, and the building costs $35,000. So obviously there are differences in what it costs. We have done multiple loans with some businesses as they continue to grow, which is great, because then they come back and they get a second loan or a third loan, and that really shows us that they're growing and improving. And of course, the ultimate compliment to us is the business is so successful, then they can't come back to us. So. In the old days, we did a loan with New Belgium Brewing, and they're way too big now for us to work with. Or in the last few years, we did a loan with Otterbox up in Fort Collins to help them with their campus, but they're now way too big to come and work with us again. So, it's actually not a disappointment that we can't work with them again, but it's actually really a pleasure that there are businesses we work with that do become too big for us then to be able to assist them.
Wonderful. Nice knowing you took a part of it back at the beginning, which is wonderful. What about a company that basically has already had some financing in place? They want to do some refinancing of debt, or even maybe just need a line of credit.
Mm-hmm. And that's really fits more closely with the 7A loan program. And a lot of the 7A loans we are helping the small banks or the community lenders in Colorado process do indeed involve refinancing and restructuring. And we've seen, again, as the economy has come back in Colorado, and we're a very unusual economy. We typically are slow to get into a recession, and we are usually slow to get out of a recession, at least the last 3 that I've been through. But that's not the case this case. This time we are really quick to come out of the recession, and there's a lot of factors conspiring in Colorado to make us a very strong state. And I would suggest that over the next 3, 5, 10 years, we will emerge as probably the leader in terms of recovery, entrepreneurship, growth. There's a lot of things going on here that make this state a very viable state for small businesses. So we will see definitely more small businesses. We will see more startups. We also have the opportunity with, Senator Bennett's team and the Senate to introduce the crowdfunding legislation once the SEC decides to do that. So there'll be other mechanisms aside from conventional or government-enhanced lending, or even direct lending from a non-profit organisation like ourselves. So there'll be a good smorgasbord of opportunities for businesses to look at and choose, and provide some even more choices, whether I go out and raise my financing through crowdfunding or whether I look at more debt. There's more potential for people to trip up, but there's also more potential for people to access different streams of capital that might be more appropriate for what their needs are.
Very customized approach you have to take with each person that walks through the door.
Yes, very much so, yes. Yeah.
Folks, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, you're obviously going to take a look at all the different programs they have. First of all, asking yourself what you're going to be using the funding for, and then breaking it down from there. And then basically they have applications and documents that they're able to refer to you. We're talking about a neutral third party that really is in your side. Their staff becomes your best friend when you're out there navigating through the world of finance in small business. You can also check their blog there as well and get an idea as far as some of the news in small business they keep apprised of, as well as the daily rates out there. Let me ask you, obviously it takes 2 sides of that bridge for this to work. One is the people that are lending the money, and the other side that is borrowing it. What about lenders? Are you constantly adding lenders, or do you have companies out there who would like to do business with you? How does that work?
We're not a difficult group to do business with. Last year in Colorado, we worked with or partnered with 62, because we're not really working, we're partnering with them, 62 different commercial lenders in the state of Colorado. So many lenders will work with us. And many of them on average will only work with us once, twice, 3 times a year. There are definitely some more active lenders than others, but on average, we might be working with each lender 2 or 3 times. So there are many people who might use us just once or twice a year, and there are many people who use us more. Every lender, bank or credit union in Colorado is capable of doing SBA loans and partnering with a group like us. It's really up to whether they would wish to do that. And as part of our education, we're constantly providing free webinars, going out and doing presentations to banks, and just giving them the tools and the ammunition that help them understand whether this person who comes in might be a candidate for the program. And then we really do encourage them to call us or talk with us or invite us out to come and meet with them as well too. So.
Interesting. At the end of the day, their success is your success. I can easily see that. Please tell our viewers out there what the first step is. Do they contact you, email? How does that work?
And because we're primarily the junior partner in all of this, at least in Colorado, and the model works differently in different states, but really a small business will always need to have a relationship with a private sector lender, a bank more than likely, or a credit union. And so the best place to start with is whomever your relationship is. And so start with your local friendly banker. Then if for some reason they're not as familiar with SBA or the other sorts of programs out there, we would be very happy to meet with them and educate them. Or if for whatever reason, they can't get information that they need, please always call us. And anytime any small business or prospective borrower should call us and ask some questions. Because again, being better informed and educated will make it easier for you to interact more with your banker friend as well too.
Wonderful. I am very happy to share that information with entrepreneurs, small business out there. Last time, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. You're going to see their website and contact information. And basically, like Mike says, he take you through the steps one by one. And just remember, we are talking about they see big things for small business. That is the Colorado Lending Source. This is Gary Atencia with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.